What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dolphins Daily, your daily dose of Dolphins content, and a shout out to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the channel. Look, y'all, I've been playing Underdog Fantasy, so I am a personal user. This is not just an ad read, and it's the best and most intuitive one on the market. Some of y'all have asked, how can I support the channel, Chris? You don't have a Patreon, you don't have merch. Those are coming. But in the time being, hit that QR code and just get started, right? You don't have to be a super experienced player. You don't have to be, an expert. Just get started. The props are very intuitive. There's so many of them. So many. One of the ones that I played this past weekend was 1.5 tackles and assists. And if you watch enough football, you know which guys get involved with the tackle game. So it was a very easy play for me. But again, just get started. Super intuitive. Underdog Fantasy, very easy to use. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the comment section and I'll do what I can to help you out. But once again, thank you to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Let's talk about the Dolphins. Okay, so we had a little bit of coaching carousel news over the weekend. Kevin Stefanski, who the Dolphins were scheduling a second sit-down interview with, just took the Atlanta job. I don't know if he was using the Miami job as leverage or if we were trying to sneak in before Atlanta did. I think once Atlanta got their claws in him, talons, whatever, that he wasn't going anywhere. I said from the outset, I thought Atlanta was the second best job on the market behind Baltimore, and they are in the dome. They're in a division where you can win 8 games and win it. They have maybe a quarterback. We'll see when he gets healthy, but they for sure have skill positions. And if you're an offensive-minded coach, why would you not want to go into Atlanta? So Kevin Stefanski is out. Of course, John Harbaugh signed with the Giants before. He's out. So now the Dolphins are still trying to figure out where the coach is going to be. I've said from the beginning that the betting favorite was that Jeff Hafley was going to be the guy, but Green Bay was in the playoffs still, so we had to kind of interview remotely. Then we had a sit-down interview, and apparently Jeff Hafley blew the room away. Like, everybody was just, like, wowed by him. They think he's maybe even better in person than they thought going into it. Again, John Eric has worked with him before. So I'm sure there was some vouching behind the scenes like, hey, man, Jeff is the dude. And also LaFleur signed an extension with Green Bay, so more in the news. We were waiting to see if that shoe was going to drop, and Green Bay finally decided he's a pretty good coach. Let's just sign him, right? So Jeff Hafley has been, I think, the leader in the clubhouse. The minute we identified John Eric as our GM, it only made sense that somebody who already worked for him before would then come and work for him again. This league is all about who you know, right? You can look at, oh, this assistant coach and this and that. All of a sudden you find out, yeah, I was my roommate in college, or he worked for my dad, or it's just so many interwoven relationships that sometimes go back 20, 30, 40 years. That guy was a ball boy for my grandfather, and I'm hiring him. It's just so much, right? So the fact that we hire a Green Bay assistant GM to be our GM, it seems likely that he likes the defensive coordinator of the team, right? But also, I mean, Green Bay's defense has been pretty solid. And I think Miami's defense has been okay. We were 21st this year, which is not great. But given the injuries, I think we can excuse some of that. I personally would like us to go more offensive with our coach. But I totally understand they want to just effectively go the opposite of what we've been doing. Flores was a defensive-minded, hard-nosed guy. 9 games was the max we could win. We switched to a defensive guy, got to 10 wins. It's like, okay, cool. So it's a 1-game difference, but culture is drastically different. I think defensive-minded coaches seem to feel more disciplined because defense is so much about like assignment football and like physicality and all that. And I think we want to be a physical team. We've talked about that. We got to be better in the trenches. So better in the trenches. So if you're going to be better in the trenches, it seems like having a defensive-minded coach could be a way to go. Not saying this is a done deal, but it feels like this week, whatever decision we're going to make is going to be made. This doesn't feel like it's going to keep dragging on because there are other people out here trying to get jobs too. And now that the playoffs are kind of winding down, the Rams just won today. So, Chris Shula is probably not going to do a sit-down interview anytime soon. He's got to get ready to maybe go to the Super Bowl. So if Shula is the person that we're kind of waiting to be like the last apple to fall, that's going to be another wait. That's going to be a week to wait. And in that time, 2 or 3 guys might be. There's a lot. This hiring the right coach is really about timing and fit. And so I think for Stefanski, it was perfect all around. Right? Good team, good timing, good fit. Easy. Someone like Chris Shula, we don't know what he can be. But we think he could be good, and we know about the lore of the name. Jeff Hafley, we don't know what he could be as a head coach, but we know that he has relationships within the building. So there's something there too. I think that I don't know if there's going to be a third interview or a follow-up or what have you, But if you find out in the next 72 hours that he's our head coach, I wouldn't be shocked. This has been reported from the very beginning. So I think Jeff has purported himself well. Now, I will say a dark horse candidate to be the coach, if we want to go on the more offensive side, is Joe Brady. I hate Buffalo. I was so excited when they lost. Oh my God. I can't lie. I can't front. I just didn't want to see Buffalo win. Sorry. I know, great fan base. Who doesn't like a RKO through a table? I'm just not here for it. And when they lost, I was like, but they didn't lose because their offense was good. And in fact, the offense was the best at running the ball. And they were like, I think, 10th in passing, but they were a top 5 offense overall. And last year, they had the number 1 scoring offense. Whatever Joe Brady does, works pretty well. Obviously, Josh Allen is really good, but James Cook was the leading rusher this year. And I think James Cook is really good too, but he had 17 touchdowns last year. He's going to be an all-pro this year. He's already a Pro Bowler. Like, they're doing something. The offensive line that Buffalo has, now that's not Joe Brady's department to go pick the offensive lineman, but whatever he does with them in the blocking schemes, they control the game up front, which is all I've ever wanted from Miami. Control the game up front and then let the skilled guys do the skilled guys. But if the trenches are bad, you can't even get to the skilled guys. People keep saying Josh Allen doesn't have talent. He has tremendous protection. They block. Every time it's a 3rd and 1, I assume they're going to get it. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they got it. Don't even think about it. They're going to mash. They run the ball, except for Jacksonville, who was really good against the run. They ran the ball basically against anybody all year. I think Joe Brady is in an interesting place because I could see McDermott getting fired and then them promoting Joe Brady to be the coach. I can also see the entire Buffalo coaching hierarchy getting gutted and them starting over because this year was like, this is the year. We have to win. And the defense, the second half of the year was actually pretty good. I know their numbers aren't great against the run overall, but the second half they were pretty good. When I watched them play, I'm like, these guys make a lot of plays. I don't know all the names of the people on the defense. They make a lot of plays. Ed Oliver missed, I think, 7, 8 games, and Ed Oliver is an absolute monster in the middle. So to lose him and to still be that good, I think they're better than they've been talked about in the media. Just from the eyeball test, the numbers may say a different story. But you can't be that close 4 or 5 years in a row and then just keep saying running back. At some point, there needs to be some changeover. This hiring cycle, there seem to be a lot of good coaches out there. So I can see a scenario where all those guys get fired and Joe Brady gets maybe brought up, or they just fire the head coach and ask Joe if he wants to come over. I know Miami's going to try to reach out to him and set up an interview. So I don't know how serious they're taking this. I think he's an interesting choice. It also helps us in the idea of taking down Josh Allen. Who knows Josh Allen better than Joe Brady? He knows what he's good at, what he's bad at. Hey, this is what Josh is good at, defensive coordinator. Do those. To make him do the things he's not good at because I know his strengths. I built the team around what he does well. And also a lot of things he does well, can we do some of that stuff? They use their tight ends better than almost anybody in the league. And we haven't been particularly great with our tight ends in the last 5 or 6 years. Can we incorporate good tight end play so we don't have to be so reliant on outside, speedy, fast receivers? Because our tight ends are pretty good. Who knows? I'm here for it. Can our run game with Devon Achane? Again, I think Devon Achane is more talented than James Cook. James Cook is a more polished running back at this moment. I can't say Devon Achane is better than James Cook. But I don't think James Cook does anything that Devon cannot do. Can we take that offense and let Devon run it and then let Jalen and then Ali get some of that? I think it makes a lot of sense if they want to go offensive. I know Clint Kubiak's in super high demand. Seattle's also won this past weekend, so they're also playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So any interview is going to be probably virtual as well for that. But you can get Joe Brady in person, and he can wow you. And maybe you were planning on going to all Green Bay of the South route. And you might want to change courses a little bit because Joe Brady has something to offer. I'm not saying that's my pick. I think he's an interesting choice. I just would consider it. That's all I'm saying. We should consider it. And now, guys, a word from our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog's the best place to get on all the action. As always, playing on Underdog is really easy. Just pick if your favorite player will go higher or lower on various stats. These include rushing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, etc. If you choose well enough, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Now, you guys know, this past week, I went 4-1 in my 5 Drake May picks. The one I didn't get was rushing yards. Ridiculous. He ran for 10 yards today. I don't know what he was doing. It was snowing. Defense is crazy. Doesn't matter. The rest of the picks crushed it. Last time, 3-2. This one, 4-1. You don't have to be as good as me, but you should get in the action. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use promo code FootballFan to score $75 in bonus entries once you make your first $5 play. That's promo code FootballFan. Underdog, make picks, win some money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 hotline at 1-878 or text online 467-369.
And finally, this story really kind of came out of left field. I won't even lie to you. I kind of forgot Bobby Slowik was on our coaching staff. I'll just be 100% sure. We talked about this actually in the spring when we brought him on board because I mentioned, hey, he got let go by Houston because the CJ Stroud thing wasn't working out. Also, side note, CJ Stroud, what in the world was that today? Woof. But they let Bobby go because they weren't getting the most out of CJ. Brought a new guy in, and it got worse. So this may be a CJ problem, but we'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, Bobby Slowik was our passing game coordinator. So he wasn't calling plays, and he wasn't the offensive coordinator. He was involved in designing the plays for the offense to run. Totally cool. Well, evidently, Philadelphia, whose offense was just embarrassing, given the embarrassment of riches they have on offense, was just bad this year. And that's because their OC was actually just friends with Sirianni. He wasn't qualified for the job, and it showed on the field. So now they want to interview Bobby Slowik to be their offensive coordinator, which actually kind of makes sense to me for a number of reasons. One, the best years of CJ Stroud's career were also at Bobby Slowik. I think people remember the bad last year because that's like your most recent memory. But CJ Stroud, his first year, people were saying, is he possibly a top 5 quarterback? Do you remember this? I mean, this is the best rookie year we had since Dak. That's how good the rookie year was. He won a playoff game. I mean, he took a team that had the second pick in the draft, who mortgaged their future to get Will Anderson, who had a God game today. What a man. And then they went from second pick in the draft, playoff win like that. And CJ says the right thing, like really polished in the pocket, tall, good arm. It's like, man, this guy's the man. And he was like, who's calling the plays? Bobby Slowik. He was the hottest guy on the market to be a future coach because that's how they do it. If you're a good offensive mind, good offensive coordinator, you're fast tracking to be a coach. We've all seen it, even more so than defensive coordinators. You can coach offense, you can get a job. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know if the league just caught up to CJ. I don't know if Bobby's playbook is not as deep as it needs to be. Who knows? But all of a sudden, he was out. And then he knows Josh McDaniel. I'm not Josh. He knows Coach McDaniel. Brought him in. Hey, I can give you a job. It's not going to be a big title. It's just something to have. Keep you in the game for the next hiring cycle. I think Bobby Slowik is not a bad offensive coordinator. I think the skill set between CJ Stroud and Jalen Hurts is actually more similar than people think it is. Like, what Jalen Hurts is not great at is the intermediate across the middle throws. And also CJ Stroud, strangely, not awesome at that. Really good down the field, good on the boundaries, not that good in the middle of the field. The difference is Miami, with Tua before, the regression this year, was almost exclusively throwing in the middle of the field. It was that deep 15 to 20-yard mark over the linebacker in front of the safety. We lived in that. A lot of that's because safeties backed off of Tyreek and Jalen. And so I'm sure part of the scripting of this offense was him learning to design plays that actually went over the middle. He was already good at plays in the flat and the deep thirds, but was not particularly good in that middle section. And now that all these teams are playing deep cover twos, you can't really hit teams for deep passes unless somebody messes up, which DBs sometimes do. They just like bite on underneath coverage and, oh, the ball's over your head. So you need to be able to hit that 8 to 15-yard mark. You need to be able to hit those, and those windows get tight fast because linebackers are playing here, and they can go left or they can go right. They're trying to read the quarterback and then drift where they think the ball's going. But if you can design the plays well enough, then there's moments to win inside of there. I think being around Coach McDaniel for this year helped him figure out where the holes are in offense and defenses to exploit those. And if you couple that with the plays he was already calling for Houston before, I think it actually makes him a pretty well-rounded offensive coordinator. The fact that this got out tells me that they like him a lot, because typically guys are behind the scenes being interviewed and you don't really hear anything about it. This may be a thing where if he does the right thing in an interview and says, I can get the most out of Jalen Hurts, I can get the most out of Devontae, I'm guessing A.J. Brown will not be there. So if he can figure out a way to sell himself, then it makes sense that Philly may just go this way. They're obviously going with someone who's more experienced as offensive coordinator. I think there are probably better options out there than Bobby Slowik, but he may be the right price point. He might be the right humility wise. Also, Kevin Stefanski. Jesus, there's so many coaches' names. Nick Sirianni, as good as he's been, I always feel is kind of on the hot seat still. Like if they have a bad upcoming year, can't you see him being fired in a weird way? He's been to 2 Super Bowls and won one, but it always feels like there's just dysfunction around his team. And I think if he hires an OC who's too good at their job, that can be the person that takes his job. I don't think Bobby Slowik is competition for his job, if that makes sense, right? Kellen Moore was competition for his job because Kellen Moore was already in high esteem. He literally left Philadelphia to become the Saints coach. I think he would like someone as talented as Kellen Moore, but not someone who can take my job like a Kellen Moore can. Because imagine if Kellen Moore was on Philadelphia this year. Like he never took the Saints job. This offense went just down the way it did. You could see a scenario where like, hey, I like Kellen Moore a lot, and Sirianni's kind of personality-wise, I don't know. You can see them wanting to just promote from within. I think Bobby Slowik is the offensive coordinator that can do the job, but there's no threat to the head coach. And I think for Sirianni, and I think his semi-safe job security, you don't want anybody in the roster that could take your job. So I think it makes sense in that regard. Again, he's not our offensive coordinator now. So it'll be a loss for the Dolphins just to not have a name in the room. But I do think it makes sense. I think he's qualified. He's already done the job before with a young quarterback. Jalen's not as young as he was, but he's still relatively young. I think he could do the job. So we're going to keep our eye on this because he might be leaving the team soon. And again, whoever we bring in to be the head coach will most likely shake up the roster anyway. I think our DC, OC, I think they're all up to possibly be replaced. So if I'm Bobby, I'm pushing for this because I'm like, hey, I'm pretty sure I won't have a job in a week. So Philadelphia, come pull your boy in. And we know Philadelphia loves poaching from Miami anyway. Don't get me started with their DC, defensive end, secondary guys, former offensive linemen. Phillies, they got a thing with Miami. So this would only make sense in what they've been doing anyway. So let's keep an eye on it. I think this is a good chance this could actually happen. But as always, y'all, thank you for tuning in to Dolphins Daily. We appreciate the love and support. Thank y'all for the likes and the subscribes. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Daily. Peace.